see the people walk and go. Just where we're going. Right now we hands are tied behind the back, while certain people give on button. Where do we stand? We have to part, not to really do just how we get in there. And if we're getting anywhere, we have too much to teach, not to know the range of possibility and changeability. Violence and crime is commonplace within these said times. No man walk free. Prophecy come closer to fulfillment in this year dread time. Why should this be? And as we fight one another with the power and the glory, the kingdom goes to waste. Blood we take, we own this race, yeah. We own this race. Can't build no foundation for a if and a but. Are we building a nation, or are we building a hut? And every time the song old friend, you hear say just last night, we meet a sad end. And if you talk too loud, and if you walk too proud, watch where you lay your head. Or the dread, where the red can't build no dreams, and a fuss and a fight. We no care who I do, that's no right. We fight one another with the power and the glory. The kingdom goes to waste. Blood we take. We own this grace, yeah. We own this grace. Can't build no dream on a bus. As we fight one another.
As we fight one another for the power and the glory. If you think I only Jamaica want it, you know, Mr. Ernest Smith, and of course when you hear that music, you know, say, is this time of the day. It is. It's a Wednesday, and it's a Jamaica mix time. And, you know, just want to shift gear a little bit, or shift gears a little bit, and focus the attention on the biggest global talking point, if you will, and that is the United States elections, presidential elections that ran off yesterday. Of course, the votes are still being counted to a large degree, but the Electoral College has been decided. The concession is still outstanding on the part of the sitting U.S. Vice President and candidate, presidential candidate Kamala Harris. But a lot of people are shocked, and you know, none less than myself. You know, I guess by virtue of, you know, experience, we have looked at the circumstances as they have operated or developed over the past years, and we all have our own different expectations in terms of, you know, what we would have liked. You know, of course, Trump, who has been declared the de facto victor, has already declared his hand. Well, he declared his hand a long time ago. But I guess for a lot of people on the outside, a lot of Jamaicans back home in Jamaica who have their own opinions on the run of the election, the results, and so people are still coming in with their expressions of shock and surprise, if you will. And can you blame them? Can you? For all of those who have been watching, who have been standing by and watching, just how the U.S. has prosecuted its affairs, certainly over the last 8 years. And in fact, if you want to go all the way back to 2016, because last night, to a large extent, reminded me of Tuesday, November 5th of 2016. In fact, it was Tuesday, November. What was it? Yeah, Tuesday, November, whatever it was. I never remember. But it was the night when Trump won in 2016. And you kind of got a sense of we are right back to the position that most of us were literally running away from. And so, it sort of opened up some really, rough wounds for a lot of people. And, a lot of people here in the United States have been basically throwing up their hand. I have offered some comments on this thing over the period, the course of the day today, and I've entertained some social media discussions. But tonight we want to have a more focused look at what has taken place. As you said, the U.S. elections is now for the ages, and what we want to do is take a look at the results. I'm not going to get into the conversation around, the caliber of the candidates. I mean, it's kind of difficult when you're dealing with Trump. I mean, Trump has declared his hand. His antecedents are many, numerous. And so against that background, a reasonable man, I'm using the term, a reasonable man would not have counted him to win this election. A reasonable man who, particularly if you're leaning on the side of the Democrats. But the reality is that here's a country with almost 200 million electors. Almost 200 million, 170 odd million people on the voters list. And the turnout was there. People will argue that millions of people never voted, but you never ever have 100% turnout in a no kind of election. It was only in a Russia and them places, or Cuba and them kind of places you have that kind of turnout. But the bottom line is, Trump win against all odds, And so what we want to look at tonight is the results and the implications for America, the implications for how America plans to maintain or to manage its relationship with the rest of the world. Now, elections have consequences, and one of the first line you look at in respect of elections is that to the victor goeth the spoils. Now, Donald Trump has been running to a large extent to keep himself from going to prison. That is the line that is out there. He is awaiting sentencing after being convicted on 34 charges in a case that was brought against him with respect to the Stormy Daniels affair. Well, all of that is now history, because there are two things that come to the fore. One is that Trump had already been given a sort of a blank check by the country's highest court, the Supreme Court, which essentially says that he can't be held responsible for anything that he does if he is executing those actions he's carrying out those actions in the execution of his duty as president. And so now he have got the key for the White House. And, all kind of people line up alongside him. And then for those of us who were around, we are not forgetful of the state of affairs. The bottom line, though, let's just to break the thing, though. Harris came into the piece less than 4 months ago, a very short period of time to mount any kind of meaningful election campaign. But be that as it may, she put out a valiant effort. And from those of us who are looking at the thing with rose-tinted glasses, would have wanted, sort of give the nod in her direction. But again, that would be what I call a home-based decision. The reality, a good friend of mine back in Jamaica wrote on our Facebook page that she called the U.S. elections for Trump on her Facebook, in a Facebook post as far back as July 21st. In her opinion, selecting Harris as Biden's replacement ensured this win. Strong words. My Facebook algorithm was unhappy. My friends in Georgia, Florida, etc. were unhappy. Trump's supporters whose algorithm I also follow were ecstatic. Like me, they knew what this meant. Political analysis is always objective, and I agree. Americans vote towards specific planks, and history is always right. And old white men will always trump black women. Let me read that again. Old white men will always trump black women. History and gender stands tall. Trump's Republican team spent money and time on the ground to pull in more of the black vote. Not so certain about that. Yes, they did pull in more black vote than in previous times. But I'm not of the view that is the black vote that provided this victory, and I will that secured a Trump victory. Let me put some facts on the ground. In America, women got the nod to become to vote in a U.S. election 104 years ago. 104 years ago, right? And in the course of that time, only twice has a woman been given the nod to represent one of the major political parties. Granted, we have had Geraldine Ferraro, who sat as a vice president, if I remember correctly, some decades back. But in terms of being nominated to contest for the role of president of the United States, it was Hillary Clinton who got that first nod in 2016, well, for the 2016 election. And that nod would have come somewhere late in 2004, late 2014, 2015 rather, at the Democratic National Convention. And so Hillary Clinton is a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant woman, a white woman, right? And Hillary Clinton got her ass kicked by Trump in 2016. Yes, she can argue she won the popular vote, but the Electoral College, which is the mechanism that the country goes by, handed her a loss. And so you ask the question why Hillary Clinton would easily qualify as among one of the most qualified Americans, academically and otherwise, to canvass for the role or the status of president. You know, Ivy League educated, an attorney at law, lettered woman, multiple years in public service, and you know, and in politics. So she wasn't a neophyte, right? But and then she served as you know, as the first lady to Bill Clinton, you know, a political family. But still, this is a white woman then, and the system ejected her. Now, 8 years later, Kamala Harris finds herself in the hot seat, eminently qualified in respect of her academics, seriously multi-lettered, right? By comparison with her competitor, who was the same person who competed with Clinton, right? Who could barely string a dozen words together, right? And here, as it turns out, she had her ass handed to her too. It never helped that not only is she a woman, but she is a mixed race woman, a black woman, by virtue of how America assess, you know, and compartmentalizes its population. And so it was always my view that America had no intention of placing a woman at the head of it, the seat of its government. I proved that in 2016, and I was hoping that that theory would have been disproven when Harris decided to contest. But all it has succeeded in doing is to drive home the truth. History and gender, as my friend's Facebook post says, stands tall, right? The history of this country is that it is steeped in misogyny and racism, right? Strong words, but those are the facts. To a large extent, this country is a male-dominated space. Granted, 50.7% or thereabouts of the American population are women. So, in a technical sense, men are the minority portion of the population. Yet, in the 530-odd seat Congress of the United States of America, less than 23% of its members are women. Granted, is a significant improvement on where the country is coming from over the 200 and odd years that it has been engaged in this process. But the fact is that women, while they have been brought into the fold, they are a minority group. And so it is the males who carry this sway. In the circumstances, at the point of the voting booth, it is men who have basically demonstrated an unwillingness to vote a woman in as president. And whether you want to like it or not, those are the facts. We can argue about the conduct of the campaign, right? In my opinion, and I've been around, political contests for a long, more than 6 decades, right? Well, certainly more than 5.5 decades of watching politics, both here and back home in Jamaica. And the principles are more or less the same. But it is difficult to say that Harris ran a poor campaign. Like Marcus, she only had a certain amount of time to do what she did. She was, she was accused as being short on substance of our policies. But one would ask the question, in comparison to what? Because to this minute, her opponent has not articulated a policy that one could have sit down and digest. And so what was clear is that it is like you're running a race against Usain Bolt and them tie one of your foot up in your back and give you a crutch to run. Right? Essentially, that was the kind of handicap that Harris had. Now, at the same time, when you look at the outflows in terms of how the voters, the composition of the votes, and again, America is one of the most complex places when it comes to its politics, because for one, politics is not conducted in the same way as we probably do it in our own little space back in the Jamaica, in the Caribbean, where the issues are about, it revolves around leadership and all of that. Leader is always critical nonetheless. But here, there are multiple constituencies. There's an issue of race. Black population represents some 14 or so percent of the US population. White people represent some 64% of the population. And then you have the Hispanics. And the Hispanic population group is not a monolithic group because they come from different areas, right? And then you have the Asian groups. And so the Hispanics have their own history, and they take that history and how they interpret that in this space makes a big difference in terms of how different Hispanic groups will articulate their political choices. For those who come from Central America and the Caribbean, there is the fear of the totalitarianism. The Cubans talk about that with Castro. The Cuban population who end up here, to a large extent, want to identify with the white population in America. And so what they do is that they identify, first of all, as Republicans. Just call a spade a spade. They might identify themselves as Catholics. And so there are certain issues that is dominant in terms of their own interpretation of the thing. And so any socialist looking approach to political campaigning is easy to bend it, subject to who is in the competition and how their ability to manipulate this thing. And so you manipulate the interpretation. And so for the Cubans and you know, some of the Puerto Ricans, for the Central Americans, and some that come from the South America, you know, certain Hispanic South American countries, they are anti anything that resembles socialism. Having said that, again, as we say, Hispanics are not a monolithic group, because you have the Cubans, you have the Mexicans, you have Puerto Ricans, you have the Central Americans, El Salvador, Nicaraguans, and so on and so forth. And each of them are driven by different stimuli. So you can carry a singular message when you try to appeal to them. And then across the population divide, as you get into some of the other states like Pennsylvania, you in Michigan, in Ohio, you know, in Indiana, how those states were colonized, right? There are different ethnic groups that operate there. So you have in Michigan, you have a lot of people of Arab extraction, and the Palestinian groupings, a large group of Palestinians who live in states like that. And then you have on the other side, you have the people who are Israelis, and so the current conflict between Israel and the Palestinians is a central argument within that group. And so, you know, the United States is a major provider of military and or armed support for the Israelis. And so the genocide that is being carried out in Israel is a big story and a big issue for people within that geographical area and other areas of the United States of America. And so the question is, even if they have an antagonistic view of Trump, they are not going to wrap themselves around the Democrats and by extension provide Miss Harris with a kind of support that would be sufficient to see her through. And then within the body politic of America, there are the challenges that face, again, the different domestic group. Black people in America, by the virtue of the strains of history, see themselves as victims. And so no matter how, it's one thing Harris says, beating our chest and the trumpeters out there that the economy has never been better. But better for who? Right? Is one thing you say that, yes, with the stock market is good. How many people in America, poor people, poor black people, have money invested in the stock market? Most people are struggle to feed themselves at daytime. And so there's a disconnect between how certain groups of people see this economic well-being, the growth of American, the strengthening of the American economy. A man who can identify with that, in a sense, you tell him that. And so, as my friend pointed out, in the course of the time that he has been out there, Trump has always trumpeted, no pun intended, that when he was president, when he was around, it was better for most people in terms of them personal economics, right? Now, his opponent was made heavy weather to try to discount that argument, right? But for most people, what them can remember is that Trump did send out 2 sets of checks that them could have put in them back pocket during the COVID-19 time. And whether him send it out yes or no, what he certainly did was that him sign the check them. So it looked like him give people them the check. And people don't forget that. And so in the context of how people, America have this John Wayne mentality among the male population, right? John Wayne, strong man, talk tough, right? And Trump appealed to people like that, right? The average Hispanic male come from the repression and the depression from the places where they are hail from, Mexico and the Central American Peninsula, Puerto Rico. Them come here for drink milk. Them not come here for count cow. And so anything that can help them buy the milk there, and that them a deal with. That coupled with the fact that the psychology of the male population in America is not one that is given to embracing fractal government. We call it that on the yard, fractal government, a woman in charge. And, it is my view that was the story of the election, right? Now, everybody was up, in an element when the first debate run with Kamala and Trump. And, the reality is that for the people in the broadcast media and a lot of the viewers and the listeners, I would say that more than 75% of that was anti-Trump, right? But her contribution to that debate never provided any expansion of what it is that you're going to do for sufferer in America, right? She spent the majority of the time berate Trump. And it looked good in terms of her showing her strength. But to know for the people who look on, I can't remember if you understand American politics, vice president, no, do not, vice president coming like a shadow in our house. They're one side and until somebody call you and say, do that. Really. So, you don't have nothing to do. So there's nothing that she can really hold on to as achievement unless she is identifying with a Biden economy, which is a bad word to Republicans because anything we never do so good, everybody tight on Biden and by extension it tighter. If she identify with that, it tighter on her. Right? And so people were shocked. As I had a revisitation of 2016 because when 2016 transpired, that shocked the hell out of me because I would never have expected that. Trump was an unknown quantity, but clearly whatever his messaging was, it resonated with the voting public. And guess what? It did again. People, I believe that a lot of the support that he generated, mark you, he has been campaigning now for the better part of 9 years because immediately after him winning in 2016, he did on the road a campaign again. And immediately after him lose in 2020, him still a campaign. So I'm a campaign for 9 years, right? Him in at the front of the media every day. Me can't open my computer, turn on my phone. I see him face. Me barely would ever show no picture of him in this thing, right? And so those are the facts, right? And so against that background, let me get a little princess. See them here? Against that background, the view that I guess the media antagonized Trump. Nobody not really look on it that him antagonize everybody. The way how he has been covered by the liberal side of the media. It created this huge groundswell of support, certainly among his 30 or 40 million followers. Now, if you have one man of 30 or 40 million people who are going to back you, right? 3/4 of your battle won already, because as long as them vote, all you have to do is wheelie in some others. Now, man, have a thing up at Madison Square Garden 2 Sundays ago. And him literally said that the Puerto Ricans are garbage. Well, never come out a female, but he never denied, right? And so one was being led to believe that those comments would have ring hard with the Puerto Rican population and they would have jettisoned Trump. Now, a lot of these arguments are being presented by social media thing. Kamala Harris come on the stage with about 40,000 social media influencers. The question you have to ask yourself is, how much people that claim them represent are actually people who vote, or you can count them as reliable voters? Because at the end of the day, you can cuss Trump till you're blue in the face in a box. One thing him do is that him, Miss Lady did call him the band of deplorables. Biden did get up to and say that, him follower them are garbage. Him preach like John the Baptist, suggest say him never said that. But that him said. And whether you want to call them deplorables or not, here is the thing about them. Them back him. Right? And so, him not the most articulate person. Right? Sound and look like a doofus 90% of the time. But as one man said, a man sent me a video, a social media video, with a big fat white brother, a game commentary, and him said, boy, Trump am I Jesus that? Him said, am I orange Jesus that? And him say, yeah, him a racist, him not deny it. Him say, you call him a racist, me I agree with you. Call him a misogynist, me I agree with that too. Call him whatever. Anything you want to call it, right? Him basically I say, listen, Trump a fame orange Jesus that, right? Him say, if Trump did come to him and say, jump off of my 3rd floor rooftop, me a jump. Because him love the man. Now, it's on the way, to hear a big man make them kind of thought. But those are the sentiments that have surrounded this individual, certainly over the majority of the last 9 years, right? See, I'm on Sean Garrity Razor. Democrats did not even have a primary and simply projected a gender-based campaign without any substance that resonates with the voting public. Interesting viewpoint, Sean. Another commentator on a post that I made suggested the same thing. In fact, this individual went even further. While everybody had decried the Trump victory, he made a comment that suggested that the victory, Trump's victory, is, and he said, he referred to it as a multi-ethnic, multi-racial, multi-ethnic victory, right? Of course, you can make that argument because the Hispanics came out heavily in support of Trump. He at the last election, he won something like 31 or 32% of the Hispanic vote. This time, he copped something like 47 or 48% of the Hispanic vote. Now, to Sean Garrity's point, Democrats didn't even have a primary and simply projected a gender-based campaign without any substance that resonates with the voting public. A strong argument. My brethren, who I was alluding to that he made a similar argument that he made a similar argument that the Democrats never had a primary, so there was no real opportunity for vetting the candidate, right? And so, against that background, you have to. We can't disagree with your point, Sean, right? And so what it also says is, was Biden at fault? What is Biden blameless for the position of, for not allowing the party to have had a primary? In other words, had he not taken all of this time to step away, right? Once the decision was made that he may not be the best fit or be the best person to contest, that they should have made that decision maybe a year or so before. I am open to the feedback from you guys out there in terms of your thoughts. Having said that, the reality is that we are now where we are, right? What are your thoughts out there now with respect to some of the agenda issues that were raised? Project 2025, some of the issues that Trump has articulated in some of the exchanges he has had on the campaign trail, the threat to deport how much 1,000 or million immigrants, and that is whether them are legal or illegal, right? A lot of people may not know it, but having a U.S. passport no guarantee that you're over there. And if the people them can find all kind of reason for take out them passport from you, right? And so it sort of beg the question, because in his opening salvo today, the orange man make it clear. So watch out, him a govern on a basis of keeping his promises, right? And we are all, your memory can that short, that remember say, some of the first things that he did the last time he was in the seat, he was a whole heap of executive orders and lock down America, lock out a whole heap of people, right? A lot of companies who hire people from Asian countries in the tech industries, them had to make different arrangements because most of them workers couldn't get no visa for come here. And a lot who were here, them find all kind of way for throw them out. Are we going to be expecting the same, nightmarish issues at the border with where you separate people and all of that? Or is it you're saying to the world at large, America gate lock? So who in, who out, stay out? Is that what we are look at going forward? And I'm just putting it out there. What are your thoughts? Is it going to be as you were back to when we were in this on the doorsteps of 2025? Are we stepping back to 2016 and the period immediately following that? What are your thoughts? Let me get some feedback from some of you guys out there, But all I can say is, whether we want to appreciate that the elections, the result of the elections, the one thing we cannot, the one argument we can't make is that it wasn't democratic. In addition to that, the result is incontestable. Is a clear victory, right? And so the people who have voted in Trump, that is their right. And there are more of them than there are of those of us who voted in the opposite direction. And so, when an election run, you have no choice but to listen and to work with the decision that the majority who carry have made, even if it will put you in a bad way, right? A man said on one of my posts, them say, boy, he might pack up him grip here now because it look like he might go out down a yard, right? And I mean, tongue in cheek, if you will, but the reality is that for a lot of people is a tough pill to swallow. It took me when this thing happened in 2016, it took me quite a few weeks to get over it. Thank God I'm 8 years older and you're a lot more matured, so you recognize that the will of the people. If that's what them say them want, you have to just go with that, right? And so, what are we to expect? More of the same. I remember again 2016 flights with people en route to the US from all over the world, and when they reach at the airport, them detain them. You're Muslim, so are we to look for another Muslim ban? It's same, or that him deal with it. Send back the people them you come from Haiti, or even Jamaica, because where you're an immigrant, So some things that we need to give some thought to, It's not business as usual, right? If you come here for drink milk, focus on the work where you earn the money where you use to buy the milk, right? This is still a place where there are plenty of opportunities if you're willing to do the work, right? If you're willing to put in the work, the opportunities are here. Don't get sucked in by the quote unquote results of an election. The reality is that America still a keep, right? And the people who have big money and other issues at stake, make them worry about that. You focus on your wicket. You're gonna have to be like a batsman, a pace bowling. And your job is to make sure, say, you see the ball and you play every ball on merit. You don't have to try force no runs. You don't need to get in no controversy with anybody, right? A lot of the experiences of the 2016 and the immediate period where the Klansman them never bother with no pillowcase anymore, right? And them out there, them are wait. The Klan, a lot of them in the police and all of that. So my word to the wise, as you're out there, is not business as usual, right? From a politically, Democrats need to recognize that the arguments where them are present in these elections now have no traction, right? The people them, it's one thing you bet on a vote and you project vote. The question you have to ask yourself is, did you do enough work to say to the voter, give me a vote? Mr. Trump, now hide that in him. Tell the people them to vote for me. He say, you might even need to vote again after me win. Which, tongue in cheek, was it? Me don't know. But him said that, right? Just vote this time. Because you might even need to vote again the next time. Is that a harbinger of things to come? We don't know. But for what it is worth, Donald Trump is back in the seat again. And America's still a keep. Whether you like him, you vote for him or not, the place still a keep. And we just have to go about your business, manage your wicket. Because it's going to be 4 years of some stress. Because the man, one thing when him in a thing, stress. And just the way him operate, a stress. But him win. And you have to respect that. Whether you want to like him or not, you have to respect that. And he my president. And no make no sense you go a road and go tell people, I know you're president. The reality, my president. Right? And so just watch your thing, watch your ends. No matter get up there and get none of Woolly Park. Take me, my role as a social commentator, I mean, I changed that. I had kind of stepped away from any kind of overt involvement in American politics. My interests are Jamaica, right? I'm going to continue my stridency, right? But it's going to be a rough 4 years. I'm sorry for Kamala, she tried. You have to give her due. To the people who put themselves out there and decide to them run for them kind of public office, me lift me hat to because me not do it. Right? Me not have the temperament for that. So me lift me hat. And I will say, well tried, Miss Harris. Maybe after this done, you utilize the connection where you make and go and go make some money. You and your husband. Right? Make another younger set of people go fight it out. People argue to a lot of young people don't vote themselves. Quite a few, nearly 20 odd million people who don't vote. that's an interesting argument. Why them not? Because them not see that the system that is none of the two candidates them not represent them interests. Those are some strong words, right? But America is always deemed as a place where everybody else look up to, right? A whole heap of hypocritic look how go on, because you know it go, everybody run come on Uncle Sam to make some money now. Mr. Trump is a man now, and him a hold the purse string. So whole heap of man I figure, don't feel away if him, Mr. Trump start put on all a crown on him head and say, His Royal Highness. Him love them kind of thing, right? Him is now the center of attention. That's what he wanted. And, you know, may God help the whole house if you believe in that. But watch your wicked. Pay attention to the ball that may come at you and defend your wicked, right? The job is like a test match now, you know. 4 years, not 5 days. 4 years. So if you're there the wicked, stand up there for the 4 years and bat like your life depends on it. That may believe, right? Let me get your feedback. If you like the video, yeah, may I post this on YouTube. So if you like it, well, it depends on YouTube. So if you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as well, right? But it'll be interesting to hear your feedback, right? So guess what? The US presidential election is now for the ages. Once again, Trump and we're behind. And, you know, whether you want to like it or not, those are the facts. And hopefully, me not believe them man can change, so I have no expectation. All me say is, watch your wicked, but good, and try. If you know when every day that pass, the next morning mark your crease, but on. More time. More time.
And as we fight one another, power and glory, Jah goes with. We the people walking door, that's where we're going. Right now we hands are tied behind the back, while certain people give on button. Where do we stand? We have to part, not to really do just how we get in there. And if we get in anywhere, we have too much to take, not to know the range of possibility and changeability. Violence and crime is commonplace within these said times. No man walk free. Prophecy come closer to fulfillment in this dread time. Why should this be? And as we fight one another with the power and the glory, the kingdom goes to waste. Blood we taste, we own this race, yeah. We own this race. Can't build no foundation for a if and a but. Are we building a nation or are we building a hut? And every time you ask with some old friend, you hear say just last night we meet outside again. And if you talk too long, and if you walk too Watch where you lay your head. Road that tread, where the red can't build no dreams on a bust and a fight. We no care who what just that's no right. We fight one another with the power and the glory. The kingdom goes to waste.